everybody that we know that wants to create a business or write a book or go ask that person out, action is always faster than reaction. If you're responding, now you're behind. If you don't take ownership and take agency in your life, you'll play a victim for the rest of your life.
And I feel like a lot of people become complacent because they think and believe that they truly are in this place of maintenance or neutrality. I realized relatively early on that there is no such thing as maintenance. Maintenance is a myth. There is no neutral. There is no treading water. Like, you are either getting better or you are getting worse.
The ones that are kind of stuck in this, just stay in it.
We're rolling. And I haven't done an in-person podcast with a guest apart from Greg in a while. But you and Greg are both of y'all bald. So I feel like I'm just talking to Greg.
We're both keto. We both work out. I mean, I'm not in constant prep like he is.
Yeah.
That guy's in like pre-prep to prep for the post-prep prepping.
Yeah, he's a prepping fool, man.
Preparation.
Prepping.
Yeah.
He's been in prep since January.
Every time I see him online, I was like, he's competing. Oh,
Again.
he just got done. Oh, he's re-prep. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So, and then your competition will be here in 4 weeks.
Yeah, and that'll be his last show probably. So he did a show in Wisconsin a month or two ago, and then he's doing my show into September.
Well, I can't think of a better show to really go all in to prep for and bring home some medals and some swords and all the other regalia that you're offering there. This is going to be a big deal, like the actual event center and everything. You were telling me, so there's going to be, tell me more. You were talking about what your dad's doing, all these things.
We're just going all out with everything, man. So my dad's going to be smoking pork butt all night long. That'll be for all the competitors, the judges, the attendees as supplies last. I've got another friend of mine that's going to be bringing a bunch of chicken that he raised himself, all done the right way, regeneratively. He's going to be grilling those. I've got judges coming in from out of state. I got polygrapher coming in. I got the photographer coming in. I got another photographer coming in, getting behind the scenes shots. I've got somebody interviewing the competitors. I got Chip there getting media. We're going to have, and the venue itself is nice, man. Like, most of these competitions are hosted at like some, kind of janky high school auditorium.
Yeah.
And ours is like a performing arts center that costs a lot of money, but like, I know the audio is going to be on point. The lighting's going to be top notch. It's all going to be just perfect, And we're hosting, like the host gym is within walking distance of the host hotel. So all the competitors that stay at the hotel can walk over to the gym, which is where we're going to be doing tanning, and they get all the gym access for free. So it's going to be slick. It's going to be slick. You should come.
I was going to say, I'm going to see if I can carve something out. I think we were talking about this before too. Like, when you do what you do, when you're in this environment the way that you are, when you've competed enough times, you start to see, this is what I like. This is stuff that could be better. And then I also know you, like, there's, you go all the way. There's no half measures, but this is what it takes to really make something that is a true representation of you, what you do, like your standard of excellence. And so I think that's going to be, people that are here are going to be in for a treat.
Yeah, I got a feeling this could be a good segue to a mindset tangent. But you want to pursue excellence. You don't want perfection to be crippling, because if you wait for perfection, you just don't move and you gain no momentum. So there has to be a certain level of, it's not perfect, but it's good enough to proceed.
Right.
But everyone's got their own idea of what that good enough looks like. And my idea of good enough to be like made public is pretty freaking high. So I can be at peace with it. And like, I want it to be so smooth that any of the imperfections that exist wouldn't even be detectable from an attendee standpoint or a judge's standpoint, or most certainly a competitor standpoint. Like, I just want it to be things that I can do internally that streamline things. And I try and make it like that with everything I do. Like, anything that I put out, I know you're the same way. Like, you're writing a book right now. You know what you want it to be. And if you waited for it to be like you're 110%, like, it would never get published.
Right.
And the moment you publish it, you're going to like read it again and find 15 other errors that you wish you would have changed. But like, is it better to wait for those to be resolved, or to just get it out there and start helping people? Probably the latter.
Yeah, 1,000%. And like you said, the resolution is this idea that the data is always going to be incomplete, or it's, like you said, by the time you're able to use it, it's obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to that 70% point. one of our favorite authors for both of us, Stephen Pressfield, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lucky enough now to have created a relationship with him, get to go have breakfast with him when I'm in LA, was actually at his home right before it burned down in the Palisades last year.
Because it was burned down, right? Like his home
Completely.
is
Like
gone.
he's in an Airbnb for the next year right now, just trying to figure out what's going to happen. And the California laws are not helping these people out, making it much harder than it needs to be. But well, that's neither here nor there, I guess. But the idea was seeing his studio, like where he, for the last 30 years, has written next to his like computer, he has work boots, physically steps into those work boots and then sits down to work. Talk about mindset, right? Talk about this blue collar mentality. Absolutely has it. But he's the one that, so I started writing this book. It's called Octanon Verba, Transforming Adversity into Victory Through Actions and Not Words. And this is very much what we're talking about. Everybody that we know that wants to create a business or write a book or go ask that person out, action is always faster than reaction. If you're responding, now you're behind. So initiating, just like what you're saying with this, with the book, with anything that we're doing, we have to have that sort of violence of action, if you will. And talking to him in 2022, he looks me right in the eye. He's like, "How's the book going?" So, man, it's horrible. He's like, "Good." Because I got in my own way, I was overthinking it. Everything that was going on in the world at that time too. There was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that. I was allowing that to influence my voice. Had a person on that was recently, Dom Bentley. He's the one that does like all of the Jack Ryan Jr. series, like multiple best-selling author, New York Times. And he was saying that you have an entire lifetime to write your first book. Almost like musicians, we hear about this too. They call it the sophomore jinx for their second album. He said, so they have their first album, this entire lifetime to write it. And now they're like, okay, go on tour. We want you writing as well. We want you in the studio in between. And then we want this next album out in, 2 years. And so now you have this artificial deadline and it can create almost this mercenary mentality where I'm getting my words in, my word count in for the day. But am I actually bleeding onto the page?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. Am I compromising the level of integrity of what I'm trying to writing? Maybe. Am I being influenced by the void in a negative capacity? Am I sounding like these other people? Maybe too much. So I had to get out of my own head. I just scrapped it entirely. The first book came out, the TEDx came out in 2017. The book came out in 2018.
I put it right behind you so that the camera can pick up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But the thing was, if I'd listened to all the people around me, okay, now do the Gift of Adversity Mastermind or the Gift of Adversity podcast, the Gift of Adversity, blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to see what was going to happen. Like, tell me, like, honestly, what is it? Was it good? What's it about? What can I do better? And then speaking, you get to go out. You've spoke many times, right? So the Q&A afterwards, that's gold. So these people are asking, what'd you do here? What about this? Well, what would you say to this? Well, how would you do this? So I've had literally from 2018 until now of going all over the world teaching this, speaking about this, going to companies, doing keynotes, doing workshops about it. So now I'm very well informed and I very much know of which I want to speak in this. So it's in 3 parts. The first part is about adversity because it's important, clearly. The second part is about what it really takes to overcome that. And then all of the minutia in our head of getting in our own way. What does this narrative look like? What do I do once I'm kind of stuck in that place?
Mm-hmm.
Where am I most likely to run into that? Is this normal? All these questions that we have just as entrepreneurs, right? Why am I trying to do this? This is too hard. Why is this? Oh, this is really, the odds are stacked against me. They're supposed to be, because that's what forces you to elevate into the person that can become that thing. We were talking before when we were getting our coffee ready, right? There's the consequences that we have are based on the adversity that we choose. So if we choose the adversity of creating multiple businesses, multiple streams of income, all these organizational things, on the other side of that adversity is greatness and excellence and curiosity. But if my only concern is trying to get through the day or maintain the rent on a shitty apartment, the answer that I get from that adversity is mediocrity, and I stay in that place. And we have this illusion that we can stay in that place, indefinitely, like you were talking about, where we get kind of frozen. But the truth is, in this world, there's constantly flux. We're in a state of entropy all the time. So if we use that same analogy about even like rent in an apartment, that rent doesn't stay the same. You're going to have it go up in 6 months or a year. The cost of living is going to go up. Taxes are going to go up. The cost of food is going to go up. So if you're not trying to at least click up a little bit, you're constantly going to fall behind.
Yeah.
And if you don't take ownership and take agency in your life, you'll play a victim for the rest of your life.
I think I don't like complacency. I know you don't either. And I feel like a lot of people become complacent because they think and believe that they truly are in this place of maintenance or neutrality. And I don't know what it was that shifted in my thinking, but like I realized relatively early on that there is no such thing as maintenance. Maintenance is a myth. There is no neutral. There is no treading water. Like you were either getting better or you were getting worse. Like down to the freaking microsecond. Like every action, every inaction creates a compounding impact for better or worse. And like I see all these parallels with this in nutrition. Like people think they're just maintaining their weights, but their composition is not maintaining. They think they're, maintaining muscle mass, but there's no maintenance. There's no maintenance. Like you're either getting better or you're getting worse.
Agreed.
And I feel like the same is true with regards to our mindset and our ability to have resolve and resilience to hardships. And the way you keep getting better and improving that is to keep subjecting yourself to hardship. But I feel like the biggest flaw in society is just inaction by way of people thinking they've got more time than they really do and that there's no
Yeah.
impact being made. But like all these people that work a job they dislike, punch the 9 to 5, try to fight to pay rent, payday drunks or living paycheck to paycheck, and they just think they're just chilling at that zone. Maybe they've got in the back of the mind that, okay, next month I'm going to get ahead. I've got time. Next year I'll be able to get my degree and I can go and do the next thing. Like that time is costing them dearly.
And it's happening microseconds at a time. It's happening 15 seconds at a time on social media, on TikTok, on all these things that are taking everything that you have that's important from you. If you're listening to us, here, listen to what I say. Patience will be the fucking death of you, and there is no tomorrow. If you want to do something, you need to execute on it as quickly as you can. This understanding, as you were saying, we are either moving closer to a goal or further away. There's no in between. Just because we think that we're close to the shore and we can still see it does not mean that we're not getting pulled away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do not actively try to step into those things, there's so many times in a fight, we don't know when to begin. Once it's begun, once the first punch is thrown, now you kind of get into it. But if you don't know when to begin, you're always going to be a step behind. And if you actually are a step behind, you're more than that. You're actually 2 or 3. That's why we have to have this idea now of going towards what we want, asking ourselves hard questions like, what do I really want? That's pretty ambiguous, but if we're trying to base what we want on what everybody else around us is doing, that may not be what you want.
Yeah.
If you see what people are doing on social media and you want that, is that what you want? Or do you actually want freedom? Do you want peace? Do you want rest? Do you want to be inoculated against adversity so that you can level up into what you want? You can have all of these things. It doesn't have to be either or. You're very much this 360 warrior where you have all of these soft skills in addition to like that savage mentality. And I've seen you execute on it multiple times. Having said that, you understand that it is that duality. There's no real balance. It's always this tension.
Mm-hmm.
It's this capacity to adapt well, which means we adapt towards opportunity. We see as business owners, lots of times the decisions are not perfect. Sometimes it's like, I'm going to make the least bad decision now to make a better least bad decision next time. But if we have 3 decisions in front of us as leaders and they're all not great, we can say, oh, these are all bad. Well, look at them and say, actually, they're all 3 as equally correct as the other one. And if that's the case, then I can just choose. I like this one because the downside is not as bad. Or I like the upside of this other one more. And then by making that singular decision and focusing on it, putting all of our attention and intention into that, and then having our company get behind us, all of a sudden vicariously that becomes the best decision. if for no other reason than we've decided, we're executing, and we're in motion.
Mm-hmm.
But if we wait around, we're going to wait around for a long time. We have, what is it? The average person has 4,000 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
So if you take your, whatever your age is now, multiply it times 52, and then subtract that, that's how many weeks you have. So we don't have a lot of time. And then when you see that, that gives you some understanding of that. But then there's also the fact that you and I can die in the middle of this conversation, get hit by a bus, all those kind of things. It can happen quickly. Also, that's assuming that we are in 100% health, physically, emotionally, and cognitively until the moment that all of a sudden, whatever happens to us happens. We see that that's not the case.
Yeah.
So if you look at that and say, okay, this is as many years as I have to breathe on this mortal coil is one thing, but the quality of my life may change, even if I'm doing everything correctly, just like with my life. I did not ask to get paralyzed. I did not ask to flatline. I did not ask to be stuck in that place for a long time at 40. It was a very different midlife crisis. But yet, I'm grateful that it happened. I'm glad that God put me through it because it helped me understand what was important and what wasn't. And then it helped me violently execute towards the things that are important. And we're talking about the standard of excellence. You and I do that towards the things that matter, but the stuff that doesn't matter, it also allows us to just let those things go.
Yeah.
They are not worth that energy. They are not worth that amount of headache or heartache that we would put into it. You prioritize your wife, your boys, yourself, your business, and then everything else kind of falls away from that. But if we don't have a priority, if we don't know what it is that we want, we can chase a lot of other things in this expectation that it's going to be the thing that gives us that fulfillment that we're looking for.
Yeah, I feel like I feel fortunate because I recognized relatively early on what my purpose and passion was, and then I could just attack it with utmost intensity. And then once you know that, the things that are noise to that fall on the wayside. You know, I stopped drinking early on. I stopped partying early on because I knew early on what I wanted, and I knew that any of that would conflict with that overall goal. And I think, kind of going back to what you're saying about we don't have a lot of time, I agree. But the interesting thing is, you listen to much of Gary Vaynerchuk stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's all about like you have a lot of time. Like if you're a 73-year-old woman and you find your purpose, I mean, you got 20, 30 years left. That's a
Yeah.
lot of time. But I think the caveat to that is like, if you feel confident that you're doing every single thing that you can right now, once you're there, that can compound over a significant period of time, and that makes a difference. You can feel good about it. But like if you don't know what you're doing and your actions are not compounding in a favorable manner, then the amount of time you have to figure that out is shortened because like it's costing you immensely.
It is. It's that Andy Frisella calls it aggressive patience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we execute as much as we can towards this thing. And then if the ball's in somebody else's court or we're waiting for, an invoice or somebody to sign something or whatever it is, like us trying to pursue that more is not going to help. So we have to be aggressive, but have that patience to understand, okay, I've done everything I can. I've left no stone unturned. Now I don't have to be anxiety ridden. I don't have to be concerned. Like I can actually rest. I can recover. I can put my attention towards these other things that are absolutely worthy of that. But it feels like, just like you were saying, if we don't know what we want to do, then there is a lot of this like energy dispersed in a bunch of directions that are not going to serve us. And they create more anxiety because we don't have this understanding. Memento mori, right? This classic Stoics saying, they say that remember that you will die. In this new book, I talk about this idea of memore adversitatis, remember adversity. So if we just go into this idea and say memento mori, I know that I'm going to die, and you're a young person in your 20s, again, that seems so far away. And if we're not careful and we say, well, I'm going to die anyway, so it may lead us down this almost existential nihilistic idea where it's all self-serving. And I just want to do whatever helps me. And I don't care how it influences other people. And maybe it leads to this like almost Machiavellian mentality where they're just trying to use people up. That is one way to look at it. But the goal is to actually say, remember adversity. In other words, remember that there are things that can happen in this world that are a fate worse than death, that can make death look almost like easier by comparison. And I'm not talking about like a suicidal ideology. I'm saying that the hardship that you have to face is going to be there at some point. So if you don't do these things to be prepared, if you're not willing to learn to look at those things as opportunities, you will fall back. You will become the victim. And understanding that there is adversity that will be coming, that keeps you from just saying, oh, well, I'm going to die at some point. That's a long time away. No, adversity is right around the corner. As you and I are speaking, it's en route for both of us.
Yeah.
But we're accustomed to it. We're familiar with it. We're aware of it, but we're not afraid of it. And then we also know that, yeah, it's kicked our ass in the past at times. It has to. But that's what allows us to become the man that I'm speaking to today. That's what allows us to have the vision that we have. And now, because there's three ways in my mind. There's this adversity perception cycle that I put in the book when I talk about adversity. And the top of it is this idea that if I'm afraid, if I'm a victim, I'm afraid of adversity. When I see it, I clam up, I slow down, I don't take action, I hesitate, I drag my feet. It makes me pessimistic. And then that leads into every single time I face adversity. So that's the cycle. The cycle that I want to go into is that of a victor, the person that says, okay, this is opportunity. I'm going to redouble my efforts now. I'm going to actually click in. This is like my trigger to be the best that I can be. And now I become grateful for it. And so now every time I get to the top of that loop, it's this self-fulfilling prophecy for me, right? I'm using confirmation bias for my advantage in this case. I believe I can get through this. I believe on the other side of this thing is going to be something better for me. If we're in a victim mentality, that we'll go to that first phase. If we have the energy and the belief, we'll go to the second phase of victor. There's a third part where I can say, listen, I'm tired. I have a lot going on. I'm stressed out. I'm not going to bleed any more emotion or energy into either one of those ideologies. I'm going to just say, I see adversity here in my periphery. I acknowledge its existence, but I choose to make it irrelevant to what I'm working towards. I know it's there, but I'm not going to let it inhibit me. And once we get through the adversity that we're facing, all the hardship feels irrelevant, because once we're there and once we've won, we forget about all that hardship, because this is what we're working towards. And that's why having a goal, that's why moving towards something with intention every day is key. And if we don't do those things, then again, as you were saying, the default that we think that we're just being stationary, no, we're actually falling behind.
Well, I feel like there's some fundamental truths that apply to all human beings. And the fundamental truth of us having adversity in some form or fashion is there for all of us. And I feel like you have the choice to either, bring that on, self-impose it, become hardened, harder to kill, and resilient,
Yeah.
and proactive, in which case you have that victor mentality, and then you just approach any form of hardship as an opportunity. Like, okay, this is happening to me for a reason. How can I leverage it? Versus the woe is me victim mentality. And like, you have the choice as to how you do it. I mean, you're going to have hard either way. Like, you either bring it on intentionally or it comes to you reactively. And it's unfortunate to see it play out in the reactive state, because I mean, I've got family and close friends that have this victim mentality, and like, I want the best for them. I want them to be able to see that they can be empowered, but it's like hard to train that. Like, I don't know, like, how old are you, Marcus?
53.
53. All right, I'm 33, so you got me beat by a little bit.
A little bit.
Do you have this notion of like the younger generation? Like, do you think it's a generational thing? Do you think it is nature versus nurture thing? Do you think it's an environmental? Like, what do you think that that catalyst is that creates the victim mentality to begin with?
I think it's all those things, but I would say that, so the younger generations we see now are more involved in therapy or going to see somebody to talk to about stuff. But I had a woman on my show named Sarut Chawla. She's a British psychologist. And she was saying that, in her opinion, like less than 3/4 of the people that are doing those things as like counselors or psychologists are really even qualified to do it in a legitimate manner. And she also said that there is about 90% of them have this very like liberal ideology. And I'm not trying to like create like a divide in the room, but people that are conservative usually have this idea of pulling themselves up by the bootstraps, trying to be independent, trying to have some sort of agency in their life. If you're talking to somebody that just allows you to continually boohoo about how bad your life is, doesn't challenge you, doesn't ask you what you're doing to change it, then you're just going to continue to go into that. And that becomes who you are. And that's that first adversity perception cycle repeated. And now you have somebody, because now when you go to them, what do? They talk about how they went to their psychologist or their counselor today, and they were saying, I do have it really bad, and I need to just, give myself some grace. And so what are they doing? They're encouraging mediocrity. They're encouraging that person to not take any agency in their life. We're also finding that there are so many people now what I have found too is I've interviewed a lot of people that have been through hardship. And every person that I know that's actually been through legitimate hardship, like being molested as a kid, being beaten, not knowing where their food's going to come from, being like traumatized. I interviewed a woman, Jessica Buchanan, who was the one that was actually captured by Somali pirates. Obama had to have the Navy SEAL team to come in to get her. And every person that's in those kind of environments, none of them ever want to identify themselves as a victim. They don't, because they had everything that they own, their will, ripped away from them. They never want to identify as that. The people that I see that are constantly doing that or using this victim mentality, using this victim vernacular, calling everybody that they don't like an undiagnosed narcissist. Anybody that pushes back against them is gaslighting them. It's like, no. Anybody that doesn't tolerate them throwing a tantrum, or anybody that actually asks them to be at a standard as an employee, for example, to be on time, to be in uniform. Those are the bare minimums. And now it's like, oh, that's too much stress for me. Those are the people that are choosing that mediocrity over and over again. And they're around people that encourage it. So the people that needed the most help are the ones that never call themselves victims in the first place. The ones that are kind of stuck in this, just stay in it. But this is the beauty of adversity. They think they're facing something big right now. But what will happen is there will be a bigger adversity that punches them in the face and forces them to take action. That larger adversity will be much harder to overcome than this little one that they're making into something bigger than what it is. So that adversity will be a blessing for them. The problem is, if you are not prepared for it, it can be like devastating, and it can put them in an even deeper hole in the process. So if you don't understand that that is part of it, if you don't choose it on your own, it's going to be hard. And I have friends and family that are like that too. We can't change anybody, right? But the best way for us to create impact on them, to actually influence them, is through a demonstration of who we are, what we do. All leadership begins with self-leadership. So like your boys, Crystal, obviously, you guys just live that. It is not even a question. Work ethic is built in. Being physical is built in. Being outside is built in. All those things. That's never going to be something where they have to wonder to themselves, is it a good idea to work out? Oh, they know that it's good. Is diet important? Yeah, they know it is. It's just you've given it to them so they understand it. Right now, people are willfully choosing to stay in that place. J.C. Glick, the Army Ranger battalion leader, said that there are casualties and there are victims. So in combat, if a person has this mentality of being a casualty, they'll keep fighting the whole time. If I'm down and you pick me up, I'm going to be shooting behind you to protect us as we try to get to cover. But if I'm a victim, I'm going to be injured long before I need to be. I'm going to be that person who gives up the fight. I'm going to look for any excuse. So the minute that there's even the slightest inconvenience, I'll use that as an opportunity to not work. And then that becomes that self-perpetuating thing. And then Dr. Anthony Chaffee talks about these. There's like type 1, type 2 diabetes. He calls cancer a form of diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
He calls anything neurological, like deficit-wise, Parkinson's. These are form of basically
Type 3 diabetes.
these diabetes,
Alzheimer's,
right?
dementia, yeah.
And that's what it all comes down to. So now this person is eating crappy food. They're not exercising. They're not taking good care of themselves. And now they get overweight, prehypertensive. Guess what? Now they're type 1 diabetic somehow. And now they're in that place. So that person will stay in that place until something bigger forces them out of it. And that's when they have to have that dark night of the soul. They have to decide who they want to become on the other side of it.
I feel like life obviously tends to get harder as you get older. Like I look at Hazen now, 6 weeks old, 7 weeks old, and like he's got food on tap.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he's crying, he gets attended to. He sleeps as long as he wants. Like if the world threw him a hard ball, he wouldn't handle it. You know, he's 6 weeks old. He's out of luck. Like we're at his beck and call. And it's like that's obviously not building any physical or mental or emotional fortitude. Like he needs hardship. And as he gets older, we'll subject it to him. Like I look at Rigel, he's 3 years old. If there's things that he's doing that he shouldn't, there's consequences to it.
There it
Like
is.
that's his form of hardship. Like if he, isn't picking up his toys, we take his toys away until he learns to pick them up or something. Like that's his idea of hardship. Again, nothing serious. But like as you age, you have to be like on this stair stepper approach to like dealing with adversity, acclimating to it, gaining that perspective, and then learning how to see how it transcends the physical thing you're doing just then, but like applies to other areas of your life. So I'm looking at people that for whatever reason don't have that mental resolve. They don't have that ability to see the good in the adversity. And it's like, where did they go wrong? And it's like, man, it really puts the emphasis on parenting. And because like those early years are monumental. Because if you get to, 10 years old, didn't have a good father figure in your life, already have bad habits in place, and then you start being subjected to adversities of the world outside of your, inner family dynamic unit, it's like you're just a dick to other people, you're a nuisance, you're stealing stuff, like it all just goes downhill pretty early on in a child's adolescence development. So, I mean, having good parenting, I think, is probably the biggest pivotal priority in making this, trend in the right direction. But then you look at people that, came from that had that just stripped from them early on. Like they had no father figure, they were foster care, whatever the case may be. And like you hear the success stories of them.
Yes.
Like how do they figure that out? How do they tap into it? I don't know. Like I come from a pretty good home. Like how does that individual, you know, rise up to the challenge and become a functioning member of society?
And that's like you said, the nature versus nurture type thing, or, you know, so I talked to Dean Stott. He's a former British Special Forces Commando SAS guy, and he grew up in foster care. And so for him, because they brought him in and they were saying the same thing that we are, they were saying, listen, we have guys that are in better condition physically for Special Forces in Great Britain now, but their mental fortitude is like non existent. Their grit is not even there. And he said, they need to have it before we get there. He's like, we can build on what they have, but I can't build something that you don't have yet. So for him, all those people that I saw, and I've interviewed these people and there's a direct correlation, just like you're saying, to how much adversity that they can endure, how much they can channel it into a purpose, and then how they can actually leverage it into something that makes them better. So for him, he had a younger sister with him. So when they were in foster care, and if anybody approached them in any capacity, that warrior in him came up. And so at 6 years old, he's pushing back and punching against, it doesn't matter who it is. So he had that fight or flight built into him, and that's who he became. These adversities that we have at a young age, they become super developed, and they actually become, in some ways, a positive coping mechanism for us. So for him, that was just always who he was. He was 130 pounds, but yet he could do pull-ups all day. He could run all day, sit-ups all day. And for those sort of behaviors in the military, that's what they need. They need that guy that's not going to quit, that has endurance, that is strong enough physically and mentally with the grit to get to where he needs to go. The people that have never been pushed, that have never been challenged, they don't understand that they have this choice to do what they need to do. At a young age, that's very, like you said, from when I was studying child psychology, it was, I believe, 0 to 6 or 5 was that developmental phase where if you can lock in with them at that age, everything else is golden. After that, it's a challenge. After that, it's a fight. Because once they get past a certain age, the only way that they're going to learn is through adversity. That will only teach them the lessons that they have. You can be the best father or the best mom in the world, but if they are not willing to do those things on their own, then they'll figure it out the hard way. So there's also people that, how do I say it? We don't always see the gift of adversity as it happens in real time. It's hard. You have to get past it so we can look back on it in hindsight. And if you think about what I'm saying, think about hard times in your life, like guys in the military, like you just did this 50-mile march, right? 50-mile march. How many times did you want to quit?
Funny story on that. So this is the 5th year I've done it. It's gotten easier every year. This was by far the best recovery. Like I felt great. We raised the most money.
No crutches.
People walking.
Yeah,
no
no
crutches.
crutches. Yeah.
I mean, I went for a run on Tuesday when I got back. Like I felt great. But like when you get past 20 miles, your feet hurt. I don't care who you are. Like Jonathan Shane did it with me. He's an ultra endurance runner. His feet are hurting at 20 miles. Like they just hurt. There was a guy there doing the 50-mile march with us that didn't have the use of his legs. He wheelchaired 50 miles. There's videos of him going up a freaking incline gravel road, wheelchairing it. So like any time throughout that whole 22 hours where I'm like, man, my feet freaking hurt, I would look over at him and be like, shut the hell up, Robert.
You got feet.
Yeah, I've got feet. I feel like that's a good tool you could use. Like somebody's always got it worse. Somebody's always got, and they're doing it. And if they're doing it and they got it worse, shut the hell up.
1,000%. It's that adversity scale, right? We have different spheres in our life, different circles. But if you look at the scale of like what your 10 for adversity is, you'll see that there's a lot that you can do. And then if you look at, so 10 is the worst thing you've ever been through, the hardest thing. 0 is like heaven on earth. So like you're saying, you look at what's the hardest thing you've ever done. And then if you look at somebody else's adversity scale as well, like in this case, like, man, I have nothing to complain about. If we all saw the hardship that other people were bearing and we put all that stuff onto a table, we would gladly pull our problems back, embarrassed in a heartbeat.
I totally agree. I have a hard time knowing how to relay that to people that I care about that are going through adversity and not come across as like an insensitive prick, like, because I just like pushing people. I like seeing how far people can go. Like if Crystal was here with me, she'd be pointing the finger for sure. But I like pushing people and like familiarizing them with their breaking point. And I like to know where that breaking point is because then I know, like it gives me a deeper understanding of that individual and their capacity. Yes. So I like pushing people, but I don't ever want to become this insensitive asshole that nobody likes to be around. But like if somebody's going through hard stuff, like how do you balance between, pushing them to get through it as they need to, but giving them perspective and not being totally insensitive? I'm trying to think of analogies here, but like if Crystal's saying she's going through a lot right now. She's got 2 kids, 3-year-old infant. She doesn't have, like any time for herself. Like she's got all reasons in the world to be like frustrated. She's very blessed too, and she recognizes that. But like, I just want to be like, yeah, there's people in the world that got it much worse. That's not a very sensitive husband, Rippy.
Right. And I think you made a good distinction there too. First of all, we have to ask, is this my job?
Yeah.
Right. Now for her, it is your job because she's the most important person in the boys. So it is your job. But there are some people that like to go out and be that person that punches somebody in the face with like some truth. It's like, that's not your job. If that person's not receptive, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, first of all, is this person going to be receptive? If the answer is no, then save your breath. If you think they could be receptive, or if they've been through some adversity and they're stuck in it, so there's Kubler-Ross, we talk about the 5 stages of, like, acceptance, right? So when there's grief, it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But we never go through it that skillfully or that neatly.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't say, okay, you're in denial for 2 weeks, and then you're in anger for 2 weeks. And then it's like, no, people are constantly toggling back and forth between all of those. And it's very unskillful. So if you have a person that's been stuck in any of these phases long enough, that may be the person that needs the punch in the face. So that's the direct route. The indirect route is to kind of talk to them and let them open up. So if I start with a question first, that makes them receptive. If I come at them aggressively first, they're going to bow up. Their ego is going to get like inflamed. We have to dethrone their ego. So if I ask the question first, that makes them receptive. And usually ask a simple question. Hey, how's it going? Oh man, you know. And we see this also with people that one up everybody else with their hardships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, well, you know, my job sucks and my wife's fat and I hate my life and I think I've got, you know, diabetes and blah, 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 blah. Those people love being a victim, and those
Mm-hmm.
people have to have something bigger than a conversation with us to get them through that. Having said that, if you ask this person, you know, how's it going? They're like, oh, it's tough. It's like, well, tell me about it. Now you allow them to speak. You've got them to where they're receptive and open. And this is a martial art analogy, right? Judo, jujitsu, aikido. I get that energy flowing towards me, and now I blend with it. So I stay there and I listen and I cajole and I sympathize. But once I've kind of combined myself with that energy, now I can slowly redirect it. I can slowly ask them, well, so what would have to be different to change this? And that's when it gets quiet, because now they realize, they either immediately say, well, it's never going to change. This is just how it is. It's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then what do you have to do to be able to accept this the way it is?
Yeah.
And that makes them start asking real questions, because I've already primed them. So now they can start saying, well, this is just what my life's going to be. I'm going to be miserable forever. But most people, even when they're really downtrodden, don't believe that, or they don't want to believe that. So I've leaned into it enough to where now I make them pull back and give me something optimistic. Well, it would take a lot of work. Well, what would that look like? Like, honestly. Well, I'm overweight and I don't like my job and I don't have a good relationship or whatever it is. That's fine. What's one small thing that we can do right now? Like, what do you think it would be? So now I'm giving them this opportunity to slowly take back some of that agency. But this is a skill set.
I feel like the key to that is like when people make so much small talk, it's very shallow. I mean, when you're meeting, coworkers at the water cooler or the break room, and like, hey, how you doing? Like, oh, just busy. Like, that's everybody's response. Like, I got coffee the other day at a barista. Like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm just busy. It's all good though. Like people say that, and it basically puts a bookend to that
Mhm.
question
Yep.
and removes any possibility of it gaining any depth. But it's like, depending on how woo-woo we want to go here,
Right.
we all have a ton of energy, and all of our energy flows.
Mhm.
And if energy is never created or destroyed, everyone's energy impacts us in some form or fashion. And it could be used for greatness or detriment. But like, if you've got an opportunity to tap into somebody else's energy, vibe, aura, whatever you want to call it, and ideally provide some value to it, then the last thing you should do is shut it down at every opportunity that exists. Because like if somebody, like when Crystal and I met, dude, like she was working as a barista at a coffee stand, and she was going through a whole lot, and she knew of me because apparently all the other girls that worked there thought I was cute, Just throw that in the podcast. But she was like, oh, he's just some, bodybuilder jock, whatever. I don't want anything to do with him. Like the moment she actually gave me a moment's notice is because one day I drove through to get coffee from her and I could tell she was off. And I genuinely asked her, what's going on? Like, I want to hear about it. Like, she had a whole bunch of family turmoil and stuff like that. But like me actually caring and opening up to that conversation led to us freaking getting married and having kids together. Like that point of contact could be like a business, engagement. That could be an opportunity. That could be your best friend. That could be your spouse. That could be whatever. But like we shut it down more often than not. And if you open it up and give people a chance to interact deeply and truly,
Oh yeah.
you can not only help them, but they can help you, and then everyone benefits.
Yes, the ultimate win-win. And you're absolutely right. Most of the time, if we have the courage or the time to say what's really going on, if I ask you, how are you doing? You give me that. I'm like, no, how are you doing? Like, really? Well, you and I know each other enough to where we don't bullshit each other. But sometimes that is the thing that breaks that pattern, right? Gets that person to ask the question. Sometimes they break down, or sometimes you say something like, hey, how are things? Good. Are you happy? Well, yeah, I'm happy. It's like, do you have peace? Again, maybe those are questions that they need to ask. Maybe those are the questions that on their drive home they think about. Maybe
Hmm.
that's what sticks in their mind like a splinter. And now they're saying, man, that guy looked at me and he actually cared about me. All this stuff is about making it real, making it personal. I see companies where they say, we're going to role play this. Well, immediately people just kind of roll their eyes like, okay, this is role play. We're just going to, talk words. It's not going to be anything. But if I ask somebody in real time, like, how are you? What's going on? And I don't allow them the easy way out, now they want to give. If we put ourselves, it's pragmatic empathy I talk about, right? I put myself in your place and try to understand where you're coming from. And this helps me better understand, one, what your fears are, two, what you may or may not do, right? And I don't mean empathy meaning that you step all over me if you're an employee or a relationship. I mean, I need to be aware of what you might do based on how you're feeling. You tell me you're frustrated or you're pissed off at me or you think that I'm not valuing you or whatever it is, that helps me have a pretty good idea of what tact I should be taking with you. But I have to actually connect and care about you as a human being first. Because all these other tactics and stuff that people have, all these books that people read, if you don't apply it on a very real human level and be able to connect, you and Crystal were at my event a long time ago when we did the listening exercise, right?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Right. And how powerful is that? I only asked a few questions, but within half an hour, you guys are closer,
What was the parameters on that? Like, look into the other's eyes for a minute, right?
right? So
And don't speak. Let them talk. Or was it like look into each other's eyes for a minute, nobody talks, then one person talks? I can't recall the details.
So what it was is I would have both of you guys across from each other, and then I would ask one side a question, and the other side, your job was to look at them, listen, not say anything, not interrupt them, not stop them, not touch them. Allow them to answer the question. And I would start with questions that, if we look at it from that kind of standpoint, like I would ask questions about childhood, money, authority, and gradually build them in. So now we're escalating. And by the time we get to the very last question, that's when, remember the other couples that were there, it's like we've been married or together for, what was it, almost 30 years. They learned stuff about each other that they hadn't learned any other way because they were primed, because they were in that environment. Then after I'm listening to you speak, what does that do? That creates reciprocity in you. Now it's your turn to speak. And for 2 minutes, you speak and say whatever you need to say. And because I've given so much to you by being honest and being candid, and you've encouraged that by being present and listening and caring about me, it makes you do it. And now when I ask the harder question, we're already here. I'm already flowing. Let's go. I remember Jamal, our friend Jamal, right? The entrepreneur. The same thing, like he was sharing stuff with somebody that he was a complete stranger, broke down into tears because he never told anybody that before. But
Hmm.
because of the environment, because he was more comfortable telling a stranger this in those 30 minutes than somebody else that may have been a good friend, this is the power of connection. And you can't fake it. And you can't get it on ChatGPT. And you can't read about it. I mean, you can read about it, but it's like reading about sex and then experiencing an orgasm. They are completely different things.
Yeah.
And so this is the power of doing these things the way we're trying to do it, in a very real and authentic way. And if you know who you are, it helps other people figure out who they are.
And that is the complete polar opposite from everybody going on the elevator having no confidence in themselves or wherewithal to like simply ask how the other person is doing, but just automatically defaulting to looking at your phone, which is like it's unsettling, man. Like you
Mhm.
go into an elevator, it's like it's quiet. You're going up 3 floors. First of all, if you're going up 3 floors, you should take the stairs. But
Right.
you're doing that, and like everybody just they don't know how to talk to people, so they just like default to looking at their phone. And like I making like this big full circle thing here, but I was asking earlier about what's the catalyst for this victim mentality. Is it a generational thing? I don't want to ever just be like back in my day, because I feel like that's just it's not good. Because there's certainly outliers that are
Absolutely.
young individuals that are freaking killers and hustlers. Um, but like I think because of the tools at our disposal now, it's become so easy for us to lose sight of how to interact, how to create, self-awareness, confidence, and be excited about adversity. Like we've created so many tools that make it easy to avoid all of that with social media, with inundation of technology. And that's obviously more prevalent in the younger
Yes.
demographics because they grew up with it. So like that has had a negative effect in that regard. Because we are human as humans, we're like hardwired to default to the easier status quo. Like that's just evolutionarily
Mhm.
ingrained into us. And it's become easier than ever to get soft,
Yes.
which is why having self-imposed hardships and actually seeking out adversity and doing so proactively, like it is not even an option anymore. Like if you don't do that, you are like exponentially more likely to just become a victim slob that is not contributing to your fellow human being. And that's not who I want to be.
It's I'm gonna give you a great example. So, as you know, Rachel and I walk every morning, pretty much rain or shine. And that's our time because she's an entrepreneur also. So that's our time to like connect, clear the deck. What's your day like? What's going on? Do we have time for a meal? Am I cooking steaks at home? Like, what does this look like? And we walk around the neighborhood and schools back in. And as we're walking, we come around the corner and it's the bus stop with the kids. And and it was unnerving because it looked like The Walking Dead. They were all like anterior head carriage, shoulders carried, and they're looking down at this thing, and they're all in a line,
Yeah.
and they're just kind of there. And I go, walkers. And she looks up and she even pauses for a second because it was so unnerving at how similar that looked. As I say that, and we've got our little dog walking, a woman pulls up and drops her child off. Now, this is in the neighborhood. I know where that vehicle comes from. It was 6 houses down. You're not gonna let that child embrace the adversity of walking 6 houses around the corner to wait?
Mm-hmm.
And it was not as if it was inclement weather, like, it was 75 degrees and sunny. It was just crazy to me, and again, it's that inundation. So, I'm a Gen X person, right? So, our parents let us be feral, latchkey kids, all that stuff. But because that's how we were raised, what did we do? Well, we don't want our kids to do that, so we compensate.
Mm-hmm.
Helicopter parenting. So that's created this other generation. And now that generation is starting to have kids, and the kids that they're raising are not only being helicopter like parented, but now any sort of adversity that's in front of them is being removed. And if it isn't, then they're teaching them play the victim until it does.
Yeah.
You have to look at adversity and say this. You can either choose to be the victim for the rest of your life, or you can choose to become so resilient that no matter what happens, no matter what the adversity is, you can overcome it. And if you don't like those two options, ask yourself the next 3 questions. What is the most likely to happen in that case? What's going to serve you the best over a lifetime? And what's sustainable? What do you have control over in all those things? That's it. I can only control 3 things in my life: my thoughts, my beliefs, and my actions, period. If I had a piece of paper and put a line down the center on the left side, what I can control: thoughts, beliefs, actions, that's it. Everything else, the millions of other things on the other column, are things that I cannot control. But to have the best control of my thoughts and beliefs and actions, it allows me to navigate this world in a way that allows me to continue to move forward. We're either an asset or a liability, right?
Mm-hmm.
To our family, to our environment, to our team, to our community. And listen to me, if you're not sure if you're an asset or a liability right now,
Probably a liability.
you're a liability. If you have to ask yourself, now you can be an asset and say, but I want to get better. Sure. But if you don't know immediately, you're a liability. And
Mm-hmm.
chances are you're embracing the victim mentality.
True, man. It's funny because like all the stuff that we're speaking of, I feel like we inherently know all of this. Like people listen to this, like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Like I get it, of course, you know. But like, are you acting like you believe it wholeheartedly? So we all know parenting is important. Um, I was born in '91, so I'm a millennial.
Mhm.
Millennials get all kinds of bad rap.
Yeah, they get a lot of, but I think you are an outlier by comparison for sure.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like being a millennial is interesting because being born in '91, like I didn't have cell phones. Like my first cell phone was, I think I got it like as a senior in high school or something.
Okay, so
So
you
like
did have like some
2009.
developmental on
Yeah,
your
yeah,
own.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I was playing outside. Like I didn't have video games and stuff like that. But like I was young enough when all that became really prominent that I could kind of see both sides. And I feel like I was probably delayed because my dad was like a staunch, I don't need a cell phone kind of guy, you know? So like mine was probably delayed from other people in my generation.
Sure.
But I'm grateful that I saw both sides because I have just added perspective. But the people that are born into it now, especially if they've coming from helicopter parents that like want to make it easier on their offspring, like they've got a harder road ahead because they're more likely to fall into that victim mentality by default. Um, but I think, practically, tangibly, what can I do as a human being to be an asset and as a parent? And I feel like obviously how we live and how we illustrate that to our children is the single best thing that we could do. Like they're teaching
That's
by example as opposed to words, actions, not words.
mhm.
So that's key first and foremost. But like I'm thinking very practically, what are some things that I can do to my kids to just create this environment of growth? And like I'm gonna put Rigel in jujitsu. That'll be something I do pretty quick. But then just like I'm blessed to have a lot of land that I can take him hunting on where there is no cell phone
Mhm.
service. And like simply doing that, like that one thing, like there's so much that he's gonna glean from
Oh
that
yeah.
that I won't even realize until years later or if at all. But I'll know it's have a positive impact. So I feel like parents, they've got to like find those things, man. They got to find those opportunities where you can kill multiple birds with one stone, create this environment of growth, adversity, distraction free, and
Mhm.
just like take them out of their comfort zones in some form or fashion.
When you're making another great point, the parent has to want to.
Yeah.
The parent doesn't. If the parent isn't able to, like, face adversity, there's no way that kid has a chance. So if that parent's taking the easy way out and putting their kids on a bunch of like drugs to calm them down, or putting a screen in their face when they're 2 years old, they're not setting that kid up to win. But what are they doing? They're taking the easy way out for them
Hmm.
because they are not pouring in, or they don't feel like they have the faculties to do it. And again, that's what a victim does. Like, your child should be your most important thing, if we're being candid, right? This is literally your legacy, the manifestation of that. If you're not going to give everything you can for them, then what else has to happen? There's a lot of people that, we hear men, oh, I'll do anything for my family. It's like, okay, quit drinking. Well, blah, blah, blah. Spend time with them. Why don't you work out? They'll do anything until it becomes hard. They'll
Hmm.
do anything if it's convenient or if it's an adversity that they're comfortable with. But the very nature of adversity is it makes you uncomfortable. It's supposed to. It has. If we don't have that discomfort, there's no way we will fire on all the cylinders required to become the best version of us. If we're just idling at like 20 miles an hour our entire existence, why are we even surprised if we try to go to 100 and all of a sudden the vehicle starts shaking, or there's a bunch of like coughing and spurting to get to that place? The other thing is embracing adversity now, especially from a physical capacity, you have no clue when you may need that skill set. Like, to people listening, can you run a mile? Can you walk a mile? If your car broke down and you had to walk to a gas station, could you get there? If Can you carry 45 pounds on your back and go? How long does it take you to do 5 miles? What's your physical, like, what can you lift? Do you have flexibility? Are you going to pull a hammy trying to pick up something you drop on the floor? Do you have the physical skill set with a weapon? Do you have weapons? Do you have like emergency supplies? Do you have food? Do you have water? Have you built an environment around you that is conducive to that? Do you have things in place if something happens to where everybody knows what to do? Do you have relationships and friendships and people that you can count on and come together if something happens? These are very simple questions. It's not to make you feel bad, but it's to show you there are a lot of opportunities out there to do these things. And we see even now, I mean, you and I have talked about this martial mindset and being a warrior. Like, to me, carrying a weapon is what I do. That's part of my religion as a warrior, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't do it to feel like a big bad man. I do it because I want to protect myself for other people that cannot protect themselves, from other people that are cowards, that are willing to do something. And if I'm not going to be willing to do it, I can't expect other people to do it either. I have to step up. And that means if I carry a weapon or any series of weapons, I better be very proficient. Very proficient. I better be very qualified. I better know everything about what's going on, who's behind this target, what happens if I miss, what's the best way for me to take care of this. Like, knowing the range of where this combat, this kinetic environment begins, all those things, I have to know it right now. But if I don't start working on that skill set now, outside of a time of adversity, then it's impossible for me to hope that I magically get there and rise to the occasion, right? What did they say in the military? We do not rise to the occasion, we default to the level of our training.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not training, or if I'm not at least mentally looking at the potential of those things, I'm waiting to be a victim, whether I see that or not, because I'm choosing it. I'm choosing to not prepare myself. And that's no longer a victim, that's a volunteer.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking with Greg about this on a prior work episode. It's like, when you do all these things, when you put in the work prior to any event happening, you have this sense of confidence about you. And it's like you hope for something to happen, but like you know how to carry yourself or conduct yourself
Right.
if it were to.
Right.
And as a result of that, like when you know who you are deep down at the core, like when you have enough self-awareness to know who you are, that's you're an asset that you can contribute and hold your own and be self-sufficient. Like, you just carry yourself differently. Like your chest is forward, your head is up, you're not looking down, you're not looking at your phone in a freaking crowded environment because you want to see something coming.
Yeah.
You know, like when I walk into a room, I'm pretty sure you're the same way. Like, okay, if I'm going to position myself in this room, what is the most optimal place to be in? Is
Right.
my back against the wall?
Right.
You know, like I think like that.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
don't typically think like
Absolutely.
that. But like when you carry yourself more confidently, you don't look like a good target. You don't look like an easy target, you know, and people don't tend to mess with hard targets. So like nobody ever screws with me. Like I don't bully. I don't go out of my way to like pick a fight, but nobody ever picks a fight with me. And it's not because I'm like super jacked. I mean, I'm pretty jacked. I'm not super jacked.
You're jacked.
But it's like I feel like people would see me and be like, okay, that'll put up a scuffle. I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna go to this, you know, kid that's looking down at his phone and
Right.
shoulders
Completely
hunched forward
unaware,
and defenseless looking. So it's like just simply carrying yourself with a sense of confidence, an aura of ability about you. I mean, that stops so many negative things from happening right there in its tracks.
If you act like prey in front of a predator, you will be treated as such.
Yeah.
And there are predators everywhere.
That should be on a shirt right there. I like that.
There it is. But that's the truth, right? Because, and again, also, what else? We have a certain physical aura, right, about us. And if I walk in and I'm like eyeballing everybody, mad dogging everybody, and I have on a Glock hat and I have on like sunglasses like I'm an operator, to people that are educated, they're going to see that as well, right? So the idea is to find that blend.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be outgoing and gregarious, shake hands, smile, look at people. The places that we go to, those people know us. Because if we go to service places, we take care of the server and they go out of their way to take care of us. But what does that do? That allows me to hide in plain sight. Come up, shake hands. Hey, how are you doing? Now, because people are kind of looking and they say, oh, this guy has rapport with this person, or he has charisma, or whatever it is. I can look around at everybody in that room and nobody thinks a second thought that I'm actually checking out what's the avenue of approach. What person is most likely here to do something kind of crazy? What person here looks like they wouldn't be able to handle themselves, whatever that is. So I'm able to make that scan quickly and do exactly what you're talking about without feeling, because I've got, again, the black t-shirt, the haircut, the face. If I don't look animated, I look like I am like getting ready to go in and try to murk a bunch of people. So I have to try to go above that. But that's the truth. I mean, so this is our way to actually be able to do that. And what else do we do? Now we connect.
Yeah.
Now we create that rapport. Now we're creating environments with relationships. And that sets us up to be able to win. And also, that makes me care about these people, which makes me want to be even more prepared, vigilant, and attentive. And that's why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. 100%, man. What would you say so you're doing, obviously you're a published author, you get, your prior book, you got another one coming out, you're speaking at workshops, you're working with, clients directly, business execs, CEOs, all that good stuff. What industry would you say that you are in?
So what I'm learning now is leadership is what people need.
Mm-hmm.
And all leadership begins with self-leadership. So I work with companies all over the world. I have a very close company that I work with. It's a plumbing company. It's SSLOC in Colorado Springs. Scott Sipnewski, incredible guy. But I work with IT companies in England. And they are all facing the same problems. It's just that I try to meet them where they are and figure out how to make it specific for them. So again, leadership, right? How am I conducting myself? Am I showing up in condition? Am I able to have integrity with myself? Because if I can't do that with myself, how in the world can I expect it from other people? Because they will see through that hypocrisy pretty quickly. So the idea is all leadership comes from self-leadership. Self-leadership comes from self-knowledge. Self-knowledge comes from knowing thyself. And the path to know thyself is through adversity. So that's the beginning. So if I don't conduct myself well in the face of adversity as a leader, neither will my team. If I don't give them a good demonstration of what good looks like, they're not going to have any idea of how to follow that. And this is where we talk about companies, right? I want to scale. Well, you better tighten your company up to about 90% efficiency. Because if you don't, if you're at like 70% efficiency and you got 30% like bleeding out, you will scale yourself out of business.
Mm-hmm.
You will not be able to compensate for how much you're losing. And leadership capital is the biggest thing in those things. Being able to say, this is what we believe in. This is what our core values are. And I don't mean like a bunch of like horrible mission statements that don't mean anything. I mean, explaining to them what you believe in and then you demonstrating that through acta non verba every single day when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's when it matters the most. Everybody says that they believe in something until they're pushed. And then when it's easy to compromise, they do. The businesses, the people, the companies that are going to succeed, that are succeeding, are the ones that are able to elevate through those things. And their people believe it to their bones. Now they want to do it. Now that creates excellence in that culture. Classic coaching analogy, they say mediocre people don't like high achievers. High achievers don't like mediocre people because that culture is self-policing. So here, everybody here is like locked in. They're on board. They want to be a part of this. They're living it. And you can tell just by the aura when you walk in. But if it's not true, we can smell that from a mile away as well.
Mm-hmm.
And now everything that this person is saying, no matter how charismatic or motivational they are or what a great story they have, you'll say, uh-huh, and shake your head until the minute they leave. And then just like, it just disappears like vapor.
Yeah.
So it has to be this core thing within you. And once you understand what that is and you start telling people what it is, and you can put, like core values on a board or whatever, but the idea is to demonstrate it repeatedly and keep it as simple as you can. If they can't tell you what it is, or if they don't see what you're doing to demonstrate that, that means that maybe we're not doing it well enough, right? If you want to know if somebody don't listen to their words, observe their actions. And this goes back to a belief system, right? If you're a certain religion, you should conduct yourself in that way to demonstrate that you're actually representing this thing, or a philosophy, or whatever the ideology is. But if you're a person that claims you're this religion, and like you said, you're a complete prick or asshole to people, it's like, is that really in line? I mean,
You can't be hypocritical.
you can. I mean, and again, that's the self-leadership, and that's the foundation. Like adversity strips away all the stuff that you're not, shows you who you really are. And you're going to look at that person and say, man, I don't like that guy. Great. You have so much to work on now. But if you can't come back to that like brass tacks, like bare bones, and see where you really are, there's no way you can build anything sustainable because you have no idea where the bottom is.
Yeah.
You have no clue.
So you are a leadership educator,
Leadership coach or
leadership
consultant
coach,
or
consultant, by way of identifying and leveraging adversity. And like if we're going super broad brush strokes, you're in the mindset space. That is a very cloudy space.
it is, and that's why I try to keep it as simple as I can.
Yeah.
And also the stuff that we're talking about, right? That connection. I know a lot of people that are consultants or companies that are like, yeah, we paid this amount for leadership consultations, and it's the first quarter, and they have X amount of money that they put into it, and now they're like, okay, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the way you are. I'm not going to work with somebody that I don't believe in. I'm not going to work with a client who is not going to be able to take that kind of push.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, I fire them.
Yeah.
I'm at a place in my practice where I can say yes or no to whomever. I can fire somebody if they're just not sticking with me, but they've been with me for years now. So that's how you become successful, is finding a person who's actually willing to do that work and then continuing to give them those seeds, that little breadcrumb to get them where they need to go.
Wow. I mean, I'm in complete agreement. I know you're messing. I've read your book. You and I have been friends for years. So like everything you speak is like truth 100% through and through. In a space where it's kind of like the nutrition space in a lot of ways.
Right.
Like that's like a pretty cloudy space too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bunch of charlatans. There's a bunch of people that are hypocritical.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bunch of people chasing the dollar. And with like the mindset space being so prominent and popular right now,
Right.
like you've got a lot of noise in that space. What is the biggest frustration you're seeing? What are the things that people should watch out for? What's the messaging people should watch out for? Because I was reading or listening to an audiobook the other day from an author that was recommended to me. It's on mindset, and I'm only halfway in, so I don't really know where I stand on it yet. But like I think a lot of people, they'll read a book and they'll be like, okay, this is gospel. It's carved in stone. Like it must be true. It's in a book.
Mhm.
There's like a bunch of bad things out there too.
Oh my
You know,
gosh,
you,
yeah.
you got to be able to think for yourself
Yes.
and have some critical thinking skills as you're consuming any content. And I was listening to this book, and a lot of it was harping on like self sabotage. And I'm like, okay, where are they going with this?
Mhm.
Because that could probably go one of two ways. So like when it comes to self sabotage, like what is your gut thoughts when you hear that word to begin with?
Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. But to kind of answer what you were saying too about like the cloudy space and a lot of charlatans, what to look out for, be wary of any person that will give you an ounce of truth so that they can sell you a pound of lies later. They'll start with something that makes sense to you. It goes through your filter. You're like, yeah, that's true. And then they'll slowly walk you in. And then you'll run into something that you may not agree with, but then they'll kind of give you justification to where you believe that. And then they keep walking you down this garden path. So be aware of that, first of all. Second of all, when it comes to self-sabotage, the Jungian idea, right? Jungian psychology talks about the shadow, talks about this part of us that we don't want to acknowledge that's there.
I love his philosophy, by the way.
Right? And it's incredible. And he very much like cuts through a lot of it. He says, listen, this part that is repressed becomes progressed, projected. So repression creates like projection onto other people. So if I'm like jealous because I don't want to say, hey, look at me, I'm humble. And I see Robert Sikes out there. He's got this YouTube channel. He's got all these people. He's got all these followers, and he's all over the place. And it's like, look at that guy. I don't need to be like him, though. I'm humble. See, I don't need to have people look at me because I'm humble. Look at how humble I am. It's like that person's not humble. That person is actually, again, self-sabotaging themselves with what? Being a victim, mediocrity. To people that are self-sabotaging, I would say, first of all, are you even working towards something that you want to do? Because self-sabotage that's procrastination because I don't want to do something because I hate my job, that's very different than me being on a diet, getting ready for a contest, and then blowing my diet at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
For those kind of people, again, it's that fear of failure. So they want to get in front of it first. They want to be the ones that pull the pin on their own because they're afraid that they won't be able to get where they need to go. Resistance, Stephen Pressfield, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says that that's literally what self-sabotage is in his opinion. any kind of self-sabotage, any time that we're like trying to dance around something that we really want. But this Jungian idea of saying, listen, this is the shadow, it's part of me, this darkness. I might as well integrate it. Why not leverage it in a way that's going to help me? Why not leverage it in a way that's going to help me? It becomes a force multiplier for me. It's a secret weapon. But if we act like it's this boogeyman, I create even more gravity around it. I'm afraid to do it. It's like this. This is adversity, right? If this is the shadow or adversity or self-sabotage and I try to push it to the side, eventually I start going around it. And now it literally becomes the center of my universe. And that's the gravity.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm no longer pushing adversity. It's pulling me. It's controlling me. Every decision I make with my family, with my personal development, is stuck because I will not face this thing. But every time we face adversity, whether it be against our will or not, once we get through it, we look back and say, wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Why did I wait so long? And if we're really honest, we'll say, where else am I doing this? Where else am I allowing this self-sabotage to dictate what I can and can't do? That to me is the way I look at it. And I think we all have it to an extent. But I think also that whatever we give attention to is what increases.
I think I need to find this guy's name because you should definitely have him on your podcast if you haven't already. Because I had him on the podcast recently. Let me just find his name real quick and see if you recognize it. His name is Nick Kamalatsos. Kind of a crazy last name. Nick Kamalatsos, I believe. He's a former military. He's like he's co-owner in like Johnny Slick's hair products, but he does like a lot of like the Agoji program, working with like men.
Nice.
And he was talking about how, man, we get these guys together, we figure out what their inner demons are, and it's like mind-boggling how like what the percentage of these men were, molested in some form or fashion as an adolescent. Like it's like that is literally the common denominator
Yes.
in a lot of these guys. And it's like that could be an embarrassing thing for sure. That could be something that you don't want public. But he's like, as soon as they open up and talk about that stuff,
There it
they
is.
like take the claws away from it. And I feel like with self-sabotage, with this darkness, this gravitational pull that you are trying to push aside, but like pulls you and demands so much of your attention. Like that is the catalyst for all the negativity. That is what causes you to hurt people. That's what causes you to sabotage and hurt yourself. That's what caused you to, be removed from your full potential. And I feel like for me, like one of the best things that I've ever done is just like be so incredibly blatantly transparent with everything. Like I've got no inner demons of mine have any hold over me because they're not inner, they're all external.
Right.
And like people give me some pushback on that, like you need to have a private life, you need to have like your own privacy. You don't put it out there in public with like the vlogs and the podcasts and stuff like that. But it's like, man, the beautiful thing about not ever wearing a mask is that I never have to take the mask off because
Yes.
it's never there to begin with. And it's unsettling, like a lot of people struggle with eating disorders in my space, that like has a hold on
Absolutely.
them. Like when I was public with that, it like was freeing, I mean, most guys deal with porn at some point in their life. And like one day I was recording a podcast way back when, and we were talking about that. It's kind of like was his messaging was all about. I'm like, yeah, I freaking looked at porn when I was young. It consumed me to a large degree. Then I started a business and recognized I didn't have any time for that anymore. So I stopped, and it has no hold on me now. Like I just talk about it openly. I used to drink, don't drink anymore. Like literally having nothing holding on you that you're just like fixated on. Because if you got some deep dark secret that's just always in the back of your mind pulling at you, man, like you might be trying to separate it from your day to day, but like if it's sitting there gnawing at you, like you can't possibly operate at full capacity. Like it's impossible.
There are a lot of people, you were talking about the space that I'm in or the space that you're in. I've shared the stage with some people whose names you would recognize. And I've seen that part of them off stage. And the hypocrisy is blinding. Like you said, they had this mask on. And then when it comes off, it's like, who the hell is this person? That is the great thing about it. Tom Bilyeu made this comment when I saw him interviewed in his home in 2019. I was out there on Impact, watching them on Impact Theory. I wasn't on the show. I will be soon though.
I got no doubt.
But he made this great comment. He said, if you are radically who you are from the very beginning, you never have to go back and rebrand or try to figure out what your messaging is. He said, but most people will never do the hard work of figuring out who or what they are from the very beginning and start going from that thing. He says, the other thing is, once you are radically like honest about who you are and what you've done or what you've overcome, that thing is always sort of a reminder for you.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you're saying, listen, the reason why people listen to me is because I was radically honest about porn or about eating disorders or whatever we're talking about, that breeds like real authentic connection. And in today's day and age where ChatGPT does everything for us, if that's what we want it to do, if you want to stand out, be more authentic,
Mm-hmm.
speak more slowly, say something that actually is meaningful. Don't give them a list of the 12 things that they should be doing or the 7 whatevers it is. Encourage them to apply the knowledge they already have. You and I have talked about this, but knowledge that is acquired but unutilized is the equivalent of ignorance. I'm not impressed by what degrees you have or how many books you have or what mastermind group you're a part of or whatever it is. Show me what you're doing. I can tell. And we talk about simplicity. So again, the very first thing we write down is like, what am I still doing that I shouldn't be doing? What am I not doing that I should be? And then immediately, the third thing is stop doing those things I shouldn't be doing. Look towards the things that I should be doing and pay special attention to those things that are difficult, because those are usually the things that are going to move the needle. And then make peace with the idea that I'm going to do these things that I don't want to do every day, especially the things that make me better. And now I just make peace with the idea that the sooner I accept that adversity never gets easier, makes it easier. It's just part of it. I just know it's going to be there. I know when I wake up, it's going to be there. Stephen Pressfield says that resistance is up an hour before he is every morning. And it's looking him in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And it's asking him, hey, you going to do it today? You don't need to do this. He's already trying to like yammer in his ear that he doesn't need to get up and do this. He's already worked hard yesterday. And he has to just walk right past that thing every time. To me, I try to see it like that, but I try to also just say that I'm not going to give it any more attention than what it needs. And I just execute. And this comes from, again, having a list of what needs to be done, having it like very, very honest in front of me before we work out, right? You have your clothes set out. So you know exactly what you're doing the next day when you get to the gym, whatever's happening. But if we're in this place where there's a lot of chaos or ambiguity and we're just kind of scrolling on our phone or letting other things take over our attention, we're never going to get anywhere that is worth going. And here's the other part. If you don't know what you want, somebody else will tell you. And it's not going to have your best interests at heart.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what you want or where you want to go, somebody else will try to push you in a direction that will serve them and not you, and you'll be a pawn. And just like what you were saying, you were lucky enough to figure out what you want to do at a young age. Many people have never been to that place, so they just kind of jump through the hoops. And we look at younger people now, right? It's hard enough to ask a young person, hey, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? I know you're 16, but you got to figure it out now. And now some of them may be saying, I don't even know if I want to go to college. And if I go to college and choose to get even a 2-year degree, is this going to be obsolete between AI and ChatGPT by the time I get out?
Yeah, it is crazy, man. Like I'm not trying to be contrarian for the sake of being contrarian, but when I look at, I didn't really pay this much mind when I was growing up, but now that I have kids, I want to set them up for success. Like it's top of mind. And I look at how the system is designed and structured, especially here in the Western society cultures, and like it's kind of a broken system, man. Like
Oh, yeah.
you have kids, you're making like minimum wage, you're paying the bills paycheck to paycheck. You have to continue doing that job, so you send your kids to daycare. So you're not even with them during their earlier stages of development. They're getting some else's care, and it's like not usually good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're working a job you don't like, and then that kid goes through the public school system, preschool, kindergarten, elementary, middle, high school, And like the majority of that time is not quality learning. It's like
It's
gone
indoctrination.
downhill
Yeah.
hardcore since
Yeah.
I was in school, which
Mhm.
is not that long ago. And then they're pushed to college or to some trade school, and then like they're just inundated with a mountain of student loan debt, and they don't really know from those classes if they even like the material or not, because it's like not really any depth of knowledge of the material, just like broad brushstrokes. And then you're like pushed into a career fair, you're making applications, you're firing those off, seeing what sticks. And then you get a job, and you got to get a job to pay the student loan debt.
There it is.
And then you're stuck in a grind for the next 30, 40, 50 years doing something you don't really love. And you're like keeping up with the Joneses, getting the golden handcuffs to get the next bass boat or golf cart or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
And like you wind up having a midlife crisis, or worse, you don't ever take the time to think and pause and reflect. And then you're laying on your bed at 83. You're like, what the hell just happened? It's like that is a broken system through and through. So like, what can we do to not do that? And it's like, I feel like people need to be able to find their purpose and passion,
Right.
figure out what it is that they can do to create the biggest impact and be an asset. But like, you're not really going to find that if you're just stuck in the hamster wheel that is our reality. So it's like, what can I do different for my kids' sake
Mhm.
so they get as much exposure and as much perspective and experience to actually like, figure out what resonates with them? And I feel like, traveling makes sense, seeing different cultures makes sense, being subjected to adversity and hardships obviously makes sense. I mean, that's why we're gonna like homeschool initially, and then I'm just gonna take them everywhere, man. Like, I feel like one of the
Yes.
best things I can do as a parent is with all the traveling I do for competitions and conferences. Like, I just want to get a big travel trailer,
Mhm.
load up the whole family, let them be inundated with every possible opportunity they can to see the world, and then with each of those touch points, they can
Mhm.
figure out, what do I like? What do I dislike? What can I create value through? Let me focus on that. But like most people don't have that opportunity, or they don't make that opportunity.
And I love that you're looking at it like that because, first of all, our kids' preferences, a lot of it will be predicated on our own. But at the same time, you're giving them space to figure out what they like. Um, you and I are book readers or listen to Audible as well. From what I understand now, people are not even doing that as often.
Not doing audibles often.
Not as
Those
often.
stats are down too.
Those stats are down as well. They're listening to Audible more than reading a physical book. But even those things now, they'll either listen to it like at 1.5 or two times the normal speed, and so they're not actually picking a lot of it up.
Mm.
And while it's quality, it's still sort of yammering because they're not paying as much attention to it as they could be. But that's still something, in my opinion, if you're going to give yourself something like that, that's something of quality. Because as we were saying before, there's enough. Listen, even good advice is not great advice, right? So if you have to buy a book, chances are that's going to be something that's great, something that's actually valuable to you. So pay attention to stuff that's actually valuable, that's great, because there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of good, but you probably hear that from all these other places. And if it's mediocre, or if it's a bunch of other just senseless pap that's out there, bypass it entirely. But what you'll find is you'll find things that excite you or things that you enjoy. I learned that from reading books. I learned that from martial arts. I learned that from the philosophy that was built into both of those things. Robert Greene says in his book Mastery,
It's an amazing book. It's one of my favorite books.
I love it. Like, it's my favorite Robert Greene book by far.
It is mine as well.
Better than 48 Laws of Power, better than those are all fantastic, but that one talks about everything we're talking about here, right? All these artists, all these masters of what they do, um, how they were different, how they fell in love with the process of their medium, from being an artist in person to a boxer, and seeing how they can process it in a way that's uniquely their own. And what they'll find is they'll find different aspects, like this Venn diagram, and they'll combine it in a way that's uniquely their own. So Bruce Lee says, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. And when I was injured, when I finally started to recover, when I was 42, I got out. And then the adversity that I faced then was, you've been given a second chance at life. What the hell do you do with it? And Robert Greene's book, Mastery, came out right about that time. And he says something in there. He says, when you're not sure where to go back to the beginning. There are a lot of these things that just resonated with us at a young age. And it's key to do what you're talking about, which is give them a big palette of experiences. I also love that you and Crystal are bringing them with you because you're showing them we're not using you as an excuse to not live our lives.
Yeah.
We're bringing you along for the ride. And exactly what you said. When you travel enough, you realize, like in Europe and another country, even a country you don't speak the language, most people are good. Most people respond to a smile the same way. Most people, if you look at them and acknowledge them, they will do the same thing back. There's always going to be a percentage of people that may not be that way, and that's fine. But if you look at it that way, it gives you this much better idea of what human nature is, especially collectively. But we will find things at a young age that we enjoy that resonate with us. It almost feels like a memory because it's so strong.
Hmm.
And when you find whatever that thing is, it doesn't have to be the thing, but it can be the thing that leads to the next thing. It can be the thing that you combine with this other thing. And now you're finding something that really, truly strikes a chord in you, really, truly means something to you. And that's where purpose, that's where like authenticity, that's where these things come from.
And the cool thing is, once you've figured out who you are, you have the self awareness to know as such confidently, and then you've had enough exposure to know what resonates with you, and then you just portray that authentically. That's like brand security, man. Because like we should all think of ourselves as brands, but it's like nobody can tell your story as good as you. And if you are speaking it authentically, consistently, it's going to resonate with people. And like, there's a lot of coaches out there, man, but like, I don't view them as competitive to me because it's
No.
like, look, a rising tide raises all ships. There's a lot of people out there that need health coaching, obviously.
Mhm.
So it's like if the person on YouTube is following them and they resonate with them, then freaking rock on. Like, I want you to work with them. If somebody resonates with my messaging, then we might be a good fit together. But it's like, if you're just authentic and putting it all out there, then it all happens. It all like is symbiotic, and like you get an influx of the people that resonate with you and you would work well with
Right.
first and foremost. And I would imagine the same is true in your space.
It is. And what I found too is that, like you said, it comes from understanding that this is going to be a long road and you're fine with that. If you have this idea, and I'm not saying like there's long strategies, I get it. Like you want like a 30, 60, 90 idea of try to push something, I get that. But what I'm saying is being able to make peace with the idea that it is going to take a long time and falling in love with the process of getting better. I've talked to all these, incredible high performers, right? Multimillionaires, business owners, just like you have. And the thing that I find is that every single one of them, they'll have a big goal, but they love knowing that they clicked up a little bit that day. They love that little bit of progress. They love knowing that when they go to bed that night, when they look over the day, they were like, you know what, there was some stuff that kind of went sideways, but I got a lot of good stuff done.
Hmm.
That is the feeling of satisfaction. That creates momentum. And that is the thing, these small steps that get you to the 50 miles. These are the things that help you get there. Because if all we do is think about the end of the road, we lose all these opportunities along the way to appreciate something, to learn something, to find value in the adversity, right? Here's the other part. The hardest part of your life is not the hard things you're doing now. The hardest part of your life is when you are no longer able to do those things. When you don't have the physical ability to work out, when you don't have the cognition to actually run a business or coach somebody or have a conversation that's actually making any kind of meaningful impact on people. When your family or the people around you that you've worked so hard for because you didn't do the right things are not there for you. The environment or the group that you're building wasn't authentic because you weren't authentic. And now you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are not who you want to be around. That's the hardest part. So understand that now and now lean towards those things that actually mean something to you. Everybody wants to be stronger, but nobody wants the adversity that is required to make them stronger. You have to want the hardship as much as you do the strength, even more so to get this thing on the other side of it. But in today's society where we can circumvent stuff or where everything can just be given to me on demand, hey, I'm going to have it by tomorrow. Hey, I'm ordering food. What do you want? Like that creates this mentality where now even inconvenience in the weather becomes something that's like, I'm not going to go outside. It's raining. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You live inside a home. You work inside. Like, why is that so hard?
Do you have any things that you've left in your life to kind of act as a reminder to where you came from? Like kind of like Pressfield putting his work boots on before he sits at the table. You have anything like that?
So, for better or for worse, I still have neuropathy in my hands and my feet. We've talked about that.
Uh-huh.
And so that reminds me every day. That's a big reminder. But I also, this is what's crazy. You go through something like that in your life, right? That was over 13 years ago now. And even though it was like life changing, it's very easy for me to kind of compartmentalize it and act like it wasn't there. So I try to embrace it every day with some sort of micro adversity to keep me tethered to that thing. If I'm doing a workout, it's like, I remember when I was paralyzed, I was like, man, I would have given anything to do this workout. When I was doing the 4x4x48 with you, right?
That was pretty good, by the way. We should
Right?
talk about that.
Yeah. On those times we didn't want to run, it's like, well, first of all, we're raising money for charities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, when I was paralyzed, it's like, I would give anything to run. It's like, well, guess what? We're running at 2 a.m.
When was that? What year was that?
23, I
23.
believe.
What month was that?
March. Or maybe
So
it
that
was,
was
maybe it was 22, actually.
yeah, because I did all my competitions in 23, so it may have been before I started prep or the
Yeah.
year prior. But yeah, that was slick, man. You came out here for that,
Mm-hmm.
and we're running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
Straight, yeah.
So 48 miles.
Mm-hmm.
But because we're so close to 50, you and I both knocked that another
I mean,
2
why
miles.
would you stop at that? I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, right?
That was brutal, man. I mean,
You did amazing because you were not a marathoner or anything by any stretch of the imagination at that point, right?
yeah, and I set out to say, like, okay, I'm gonna jog every single one. I couldn't walk any. So, and then some of those we did in the trails. Some of them we did on pavement.
Yep.
We were mixing it up.
Yep.
But yeah, that was cool, man. Yeah, that was cool.
We learned a lot. I remember we would try to catch those. We were on that polyphasic sleeping at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting up. Crystal was out there. I remember just kind of getting up and putting on my clothes. She's like, hey. I was like, hey, because you guys let me stay with you in the guest bedroom. She's like, what you doing? I was like, I'm getting ready to run. She's like, you got 2 more hours. I was like, oh, okay. So I just went back and tried to rack out.
It's like you had to be very structured with it because we would go out, run, we'd come back, immediately take a shower,
Mm-hmm.
get as much sleep as we could,
Mm-hmm.
give ourselves time to get back out there to start on the minute again.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, each time we're like goobing up with a bunch of salty britches so they're not
Mhm.
chafing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty intense, man.
And remember when you were saying, what are we going to eat? I was like, because the first time I did it, I fasted when I was
Yeah.
doing it on my own. You're like, I don't know. But as we were doing it, you were like, yeah, I see, like, because we were eating like maybe some brats or like a bite of brick here and there. But it was like,
Yeah.
it's a very different kind of physicality.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like fat adapted the way we are.
Yeah. And I remember at the end of it, like when we were running those extra 2 miles just to say screw it, like I'm pretty sure I sprinted those 2 miles.
You did.
And I was like shouting.
You were screaming the Goggins stuff. Who's going to carry the boat?
Yeah, I was screaming Gog. I mean, I was delirious at that point.
Yeah.
But it's like, all of that to say, like, especially watching these people on the 50-mile march too, having just done that, like I'll see these people and it's like, man, they are not physical specimens. There's no way their body is going to let them walk 50 miles. But then they freaking do. Like that guy that did it in a wheelchair, he freaking did it. It's like your physical capacity is so much more than people realize. And the thing holding them back from tapping into it is just their headspace. But it's like, I was listening to something the other day. I think it was The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, your body, he was interviewing somebody, he's like, your body, your brain will not let you die through physical exertion. Like you will literally pass out as a protective mechanism before you die.
Right.
So like my goal now is like, all right, I need to pass out more often than I guess, because like I'm still got quite a bit in the tank. But it's like people are so prone to just stopping the moment discomfort takes hold. And it's like, man, if you've got and I think Goggins talks about this too. He's like, you're only operating at 40% or whatever his numbers are. But it's like, if you've got 100% capacity and discomfort taps in at like 30, and most people are throwing in the towel at 35 or 40, it's like you got 60% that's there at all times that you are just like closing your eyes to, shutting the door on, and not taking advantage of. And it's like if we operate not necessarily at 100%, but like, 50, 60% capacity, which would be sustainable
Right.
every single day with everything we do, whether it be physical, nutritionally, parenting, with our spouse, with our
Yes.
employees, with our coworkers. It's like, how much better would the world be, man?
And how much better would we be
Mm-hmm.
to be able to impact the world, right? That's exactly it. I talk about this in the book in the second part, Becoming a Warrior. And I know that that's sort of a lot of people, talk about that right now, but the warrior standard is the warrior's job is to fight with the intention of winning. But the warrior can't control if he wins or not, but he can control how much he gives. The warrior standard is to leave everything on the field, drain the tank, don't even leave 1% to the best of your ability, because our 100% capacity from day to day will vary. On the nights when you get a lot of sleep, you've had great nutrition, you've had a rest day, you wake up the next morning, you feel like you can just slay everything. That's going to be at a certain point. You try to give 100% on that day. But even on the days when it feels like you're like, man, I only have probably 50% of what I can normally give. You give 100% of that 50%. And just like you were saying, we become conditioned to quit when it's difficult, when there's discomfort. And what happens is we use that as the metric that we chase. So what do we do as humans subconsciously? Well, we try to create it before we're actually there. We anticipate it so that we can quit.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do that enough times, that becomes our artificial ceiling. And now, and we'll use that same like idea, right? If we're at 40%, we have 60% more to give. Here's the other part. Even if I were giving 99% and I had 1% left in the tank, collectively over my lifetime, that would change the entire trajectory of what I accomplish. So imagine, like you said, how much more we're leaving on the table by giving maybe 50%. And so what do? We get accustomed to these micro adversities and we say, I don't want to do one more rep. I take a deep breath and I get one more rep. There's no way I could possibly walk like any further. I take one more step. I don't take 10, I take one to show myself that this is a mental barrier, that I can step through this if I so choose. And again, this is where we're not looking at adversity and saying this is going to make me stronger, or looking at it and say, oh, I'm a victim. We're seeing adversity there in the periphery. Like, I don't care about you. I'm doing this.
You do realize prior to this conversation, like I went for a run this morning, and prior to this conversation, I'm, hey, do you want to work out before or after? Do you want to work out today? And you're like, no, we can do whatever you want, And after we've had this conversation, you do recognize that we are having to work out now. Like not working out is not an
I was going to
option.
say, I'm absolutely happy to do that.
Okay, like
I
that's
love
just
that.
out of the
Yeah,
cards
I'm
completely. We
stoked.
have to train.
Yes, yes.
Chip, can you read the quote that I've got on that back wall? Can you see it from where you're sitting? It's in that like little lighted thing.
Know it almost by heart. You're not ensure success, but you can deserve it. Is that close enough?
Yeah. So I wrote that down prior to my prep in 23.
Nice.
We cannot ensure success, but we can ensure that we deserve it. Like that just resonated with me because it's like, look, there's a lot of things that are subjective that I don't have control over, and it is what it is. But I can be at peace with the outcome if I know in my heart of hearts that I put everything on the table
Yes.
and that I didn't cut any corners. And if you do that, regardless of the placing, come hell or high water, like you've got nothing to hang your head about because there is nothing else you could have done. So it's neither here nor there. But like the moments in my life, and you can't redline 100% every single day.
Of
Like
course
you
not.
can't do that. And I know a lot of that gets lost in the messaging.
Right.
But like in the seasons of your life where that becomes necessary or paramount, and you allow yourself to go there, and then you do that, like, man, those are some freaking tough moments. You've got some internal dialogue at all times, like, man, this is gonna suck. How can I justify getting out of this? Like, what do I need to do to make this less miserable? But like when you just say, fuck it, let's go, and you give it everything, man, those are the moments that I like come from smiling.
Yes.
And it's like I just leveled up in life. And that transcends everything.
That's why we do it right. If everything else goes sideways that day, you've already won.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else will be as hard physically as what you just did.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes our advantage. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's the other part of that progress, right? Knowing that I gave everything that I could today. That's it. And it's not like some arbitrary idea of the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. It's like, well, no, we only apply that to the things that are worthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when we apply it, there's no half measures.
No half measures.
One level of commitment total.
You get me fired up, man.
That's it. Let's go list some stuff.
How we doing on time, Chip? How long have we been going?
An hour and 45 minutes.
Nice. This might be the longest one yet.
Nice.
So we're gonna go work out.
Yes.
We're gonna record a podcast for you.
For Russian number, yes, sir.
Probably should go get some brisket today.
Don't you threaten me with a good time. Yeah.
There's a Wright's barbecue. You got to leave at 3. So we got
3 or like 2:30.
Okay, we got some time. We got to get some barbecue if time permits. Shoot some guns. I got some bows too. We can shoot some arrows if we want.
Speaking my love language, man.
Yeah, speaking the love language. But I want to. I was talking to somebody else the other day. So I do these like quarterly retreats that I'm going to start. I did one in February this year. It was awesome with Bill Schindler. But I want to do quarterly retreats on a regular basis and have like the way I'm doing them. I think I talked to you about this a little bit last time, but like capping it at 15 people. And like I'll get a big Airbnb. We're all there and we're all doing like a deep dive on something. It's like giving us the opportunity to get more intimately connected to one another. And we're going to do one next year, which is like an obstacle course. So like we're all going to go and we're going to find a Spartan run or something. And everybody there, we're going to like do it together as a team. But I want to do one with you as the expert speaker. We can do it wherever it's convenient for you. We can do it closer to your place in Oklahoma, whatever. But like what you did with that retreat that Crystal and I did way back when, we can take some of that, apply it into here.
Yeah.
But like I think very highly of you, man. Like there's very few people that I let into my inner circle. And the fact that we even got connected in the first place is kind of laughable, the way that all played out.
It was
But
crazy
like,
the way it came
yeah,
together.
but I'm glad it did.
Same.
Because I think the word of you. And one thing that I've found, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this, is people that are always striving for excellence, that are pushing the envelope, that are trying to see how much of that percentage they can operate at for how long daily. The one thing that oftentimes falls to the wayside because they're so busy on getting better themselves with those around them is like the relationships that aren't directly involved with their day-to-day. Like I'm terrible about that. Like I've got a handful of people that I would take a bullet for, but I don't see them on a regular basis. They're not in my day-to-day working connections. Like I need to do better at reaching out, checking in, seeing how they're doing, sitting by the campfire, enjoying a steak and doing Hardship with. And like of the people I think of in my life, it's a short list of people. You're one of them. We need to like make that happen on a regular basis, whether it's like an annual trip down to my farm, whether it's the 4x4x48, whether it's just a routine podcast and we get a lift and barbecue in afterwards. But like that is the thing that I personally have the hardest time with, is like being intentional about the relationships that I value highly, but I am not, working interconnectedly with on a day-to-day regular basis. I would assume that's probably a common thing you see with people that are doing a lot.
It is. And also remember there's seasons and phases in our life, right? There's people that we outgrow. There's environments that we want to get away from, and that's fine. But like you said, that intentionality, because I feel the same way about you. Like I wouldn't be here if I didn't trust, love, and respect you and Crystal and everything you guys are doing. Like we're two places now where I'm not, like I told you, even with this book that's coming out, there's a million people that have podcasts that I could get on there and do that. It's like, I would rather have a deep conversation with you and have it be edifying and robust for both of us and now serve our audiences in a way that's real than go out and spend like 20 minutes with this person and say, hey, tell me some of your stuff from your book. It's like, I don't have time for that because that stuff doesn't matter, because that stuff is noise. If you're coming from a place of authenticity, authentic people are attracted to it. But if you're full of shit, the people that follow you are going to be full of shit too. And then they're going to execute on this thing that you claim that you're developing in the same way, and they're never going to win. The whole purpose that we're doing this for is to develop the relationship because we are cut from the same cloth and because we both want each other to win. That's why we do these things. So I'm the same way. Rachel's parents drive down from Bartlesville, we'll have lunch, go see my father, his wife. Spending, and again, I'm out of excuses because you and I are 2 hours away. Like, there's no reason that I can't get down here more often, or Rachel and I can't get down here more often. Luckily, you guys, when you have a baby, it forces you to come to Tulsa to get pictures,
Oh,
which
darn.
oh no. So I love that, obviously, but like I absolutely agree. And also what happens, like our resonance creates more resonance within us. The energy, we spark it within each other. So be around the people that you want to be more like and avoid the people that you don't. And they say we're the average of the 5 people we're around. That's not it. We're the average of the 5 emotions evoked most often by the people close to us. So if I'm around you and you're a go-getter and you're taking action and you're not playing a victim, you're not bitching and complaining about stuff, that rubs off on me. But if all the people I'm around are like just doing enough to get by and they never take accountability, they're not trying to get better and they're playing the victim, so too shall I be.
Yeah. I love it, man. I'm stoked to read your next book. Can we allude as to when that may be hitting shelves?
Yeah, it'll be late October, maybe early November, depending on what's happening right now. I'm talking to editors and the publishers to make sure. And I know that most people buy the book online anyway, so it'll be at Amazon. It'll be easy to get to. But the goal this time is to try to put it into more places, like actually at Barnes & Noble, at like Walmart, anywhere that you can get books. But that's the goal. And we're starting now to create more content around that in a way that's actually going to be something that will help and serve people. And I'll also do the Audible version of it. And of course, the Audible version would be me reading it.
Are you going to do the Audible version and it be published the same time the print version is, or delayed?
Hopefully, but even if the physical book is ready to go the way that it needs to and we can get it published and everything where it needs to be, I'll do that first and then allow the Audible to come behind it. But I want to meet people where they are. I told you about initially I was the guy that's like, if you don't read my book the old-fashioned way, then you don't deserve to get the material from it. But having a podcast and having people say, listen, love the podcast, love your voice, I'm not going to read your book. But if you put it on Audible, it's 6 hours. I can consume it in a half-hour commute to and from work. And within a week, they're going to get the material. So it's like our goal is to meet them where they are, whatever the medium is, because it's the same message. But if it's written or if it's on a podcast or if it's on a video or whatever it is, we want to give it to them wherever they receive it. And then they can begin to utilize it to the best of their capacity.
100%.
That's it. That's what we're here for, brother.
I'm stoked, man.
Same.
Well, Marcus, thank the world to have you, brother.
Thank
Love
you,
you.
man.
You're
Love
one
you
of the
too.
people that pushed me to be better. And
Same here.
the world needs more of that. So let's go slay some dragons, man.
I love it. Let's do it together.
Where do people go to find out more about you on social? Where should they follow?
MarcusAureliusAnderson.com is where everything's at. You can follow me on Marcus Aurelius Anderson, Instagram, LinkedIn. Also, Octa Nonverb is the name of the podcast. Octa Nonverb, a podcast. You can find that. I've actually opened up an inner circle, and it's just a free list that you'll attach to, and we'll be actually bringing out emails. But I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to callous your inbox with my stuff. The goal is to put out things that are of quality, that are going to actually help you. People that are in my inbox all the time, it's like I just immediately unsubscribe or block them now because that becomes noise. And I don't know about you, but if somebody's releasing 3 podcasts in a week, there's no way I can keep up.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. So we release 1 episode a week. Every 4th episode is a Warrior Wisdom episode where I try to give like concise coaching lessons, so to speak, from the warrior perspective. And those are like 15 or 20 minutes, but I've done the Miyamoto Musashi one, which was a 45-minute deep dive, Bruce Lee, and I'm just trying to bring everything that I do from all the influences that I have. You were talking about these things that make us different. I've noticed that people either want a caricature of what somebody does to the extreme, like, Goggins or Jocko or whatever, and I love those guys, but a true warrior is this multifaceted individual who has a skill set appropriate for whatever the environment is. And if you only have a skill set that's available for like the battlefield, the whole reason you're fighting is to get home.
Are you familiar with Warrior Poet Society?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
kind of like similar concept there, like
Right.
the dichotomy between both skill sets.
Right. And understanding the need for both.
Yeah.
And as a warrior and as a leader, I tell my leaders, the goal is to use the appropriate skill to the appropriate degree at the appropriate time. So if I can't recognize what the appropriate skill is because I don't have self-awareness, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
If I had the appropriate skill, but not to the appropriate degree, being too empathetic or pushing that person too hard, I fail them. At the appropriate time, if I'm in L10 with about 15 people, and now I give you the riot act, that's not the time. After. Give this person the chance to have dignity. You'll be amazed what they do for you when you do that.
Yeah. Love it, man. I love it. All right, let's go do some squats,
Let's
brother.
do it, man.